welcome to the Book Bar, where everything bookish is on the menu. I'm Anjanette Barr, and I have a tag to do today. Rosie from A Bookish Life tagged me for the last 10 books tag, and I'll put, of course, her video link in the description below. And it's a super fun tag with obviously 10 questions about the last book you read that fits into specific categories. So it was really fun to find the books for these. I have most of them stacked here next to me, and I'm just going to go right into the questions. Actually, I changed my mind. I'm going to get a drink first. I didn't have a specific drink in mind for any of these books, so instead we're just having some scotch and cider. It has been a long day, so I think this is a great treat just to sit back, talk about books, and have a warm drink. Okay, question number 1 for the last 10 books tag is, what is the last book you didn't finish? Well, if you watch my goals for 2021 video, you'll see that one of them is to actually DNF a book, because I have a really hard time not finishing books. Now that's not to say that I don't have any books I haven't finished. It's just that I'm going to. I'm going to finish them. Right now on my Goodreads, let me pull this up. It says I'm currently reading 45 books. I am reading a lot of books, but not like 45 right this minute. And if you scroll down to the bottom, you can see that one of these books has been on here, on this list, since 2012. So I read part of the book and I really enjoyed it, but I got distracted, or I felt like I got what I wanted out of it, and then I put it down. But I still have it, and I will still read it, even though it's been nearly 10 years. And if you just scroll up that list, some of these books have been on here a long time, and I really have read most of what's in them, and I really do want to get back to them. So I have not taken them off of my list. So it's really rare for me not to finish a book, and honestly, if I hate it, I'm probably going to push through it faster just to get it over with. And if I like it, I'm more likely to want to savor it, and then sometimes I get distracted. So the last book that I didn't finish is really hard. There's a book that's not on here though, and I grabbed it from my shelves because it's kind of a funny story, but I think you guys might empathize. I love this book. I love Les Mis. I just think Victor Hugo is a genius and a beautiful man, and I love this book, and it has been transformative for me, but it's so long. So I started this book when I was 20, and I was living overseas. I mean, it's long, and it's not I think it's one of the longest books ever written in English. So I know the storyline in general because of the musical, but of course it's not the same, but I loved and love the overarching themes and story, and really enjoy reading it. But I think I got about a third of the way through, which is more than a book length, right? When I was 20, and loved it, but just kind of ran out of time. Brought the book back with me from studying abroad, put it on my shelf, and had it for a really, really long time without touching it, and then picked it up, read another third, so now I was 2/3 of the way through. And the person that I loaned that book from, my long-suffering friend, said, "Hey, do you still have that book from 8 years ago?" I was like, "Oh yeah, I'll mail that to you." So I did. So I didn't have my copy to finish, which obviously I had ample time, but I still wanted to. So I got this beautiful Barnes & Noble edition, and I found my spot, and I read maybe another 200 pages. And I just feel like that was good. It filled me up. It was beautiful. I really enjoyed it. And then I closed it again, and honestly, I don't know where I am now. So I think I'm I have less than a quarter to go, and I don't think it would be too difficult to find it, and I will eventually. And it may just be that this is the sort of book that it was difficult when I was 20, but it's not going to be difficult now, and I should just start from the beginning and go through it. So I honestly tell people this is one of my favorite books, but I've never finished it. Okay, question number 2 is kind of the opposite. What's the last book that you reread? So I used to be the sort of person who did not like to reread books, and that has changed simply because I want my children to experience all of the books that I loved, and I want each of them to experience them, and I have 4 children, so I do reread a lot now. And the most recent reread that we did was Prince Caspian, so from the Chronicles of Narnia, of course. And this time, and I did a little video about what I'm reading to my children this year, and this time around, the order that we're reading it in, this is book 4. So we are going to be moving on to book 5, which will also be a reread as soon as we finish our current read, which is Glitch by Laura Martin, and we just kind of broke up our Narnia reads with something contemporary, but yeah, Prince Caspian, I love this book. I love so much about it. I love the horses, especially. Question number 3, what is the last book you bought? Well, another one of my goals for 2021 is not to buy any physical books, but I have purchased quite a few digital books just this weekend because Amazon's having a sale. It's like buy $25 worth and get $6, which wouldn't normally entice me because I don't really need more digital books any more than I need more physical books. But I just met a bunch of new writers at a conference, and I would like to support them. And one of the caveats I made to my goal for this year was that if I found a writer I wanted to support, then I would allow myself to purchase the ebook. Or if there was a book that I really needed, I would allow myself to purchase the ebook, but not the print book. So I did purchase quite a few. The most recent was actually not one of those writers. It was The Way of the Cross by Carol Houselander, because there is a local reading group that I often read with who is going to be starting this next week. So not that I need another book club read, but I have another book club read. Question number 4 is, what is the last book that you said you read but didn't? So I don't know if Les Mis counts for that, because I'm pretty honest with people when I say it's my favorite book, but I haven't finished it. I don't always disclose the last part, but I haven't lied about it, I don't think. And so I don't really have a great answer to that, but there is a funny story, and I like funny stories, about this one, Anne of Green Gables. I thought I lied about this a couple of times inadvertently, or maybe like hid some of the truth, and it turned out not so much. So people often ask me what their children should read because they know I love books and I have kids, and so I get a lot of, my kids like this kind of book, what should they read next? And I love that request, so if you have questions, always put them in the comments. I'm happy to help you. And I often recommend Anne of Green Gables. It's an obvious classic. Lots of people love it. It's beautiful. I used to just have it as kind of a, if you like this type of book, you'll like this type of book, and I would recommend it. Knowing that I'd never actually read it myself, I missed it as a child. It was not on my radar at all. And then by the time I was grown, it didn't have the same appeal, but I'm familiar with the story. I know what's in it. I hear people talk about it all the time. So just recently, I asked on Instagram what I should listen to on audio next and showed them the books that I had purchased. I had purchased Anne of Green Gables on audio eons ago. Hang on, I gotta deal with the dog. Assuming I would let my children listen to it on audio. And they saw that on my list as an option. And I mean, almost unanimously, people were like, oh my goodness, you haven't read Anne of Green Gables? What is wrong with you? Read it right now. So I decided to listen to it. And I had a long hour or so by myself, which I don't normally get, which is why I had asked this question. And when I got to where I was going and I pulled it up and I started listening, I immediately realized, I don't just know this story. I know these words. I've read this book before. So here all these years, I thought I was recommending a book that I hadn't read, and I totally read it. So as I'm listening to it, it's all coming flooding back. And I don't even know when I read this book. I'm guessing it was after college, before I had kids. I went through a little bit of a phase of trying to kind of reclaim the time lost, and I read some classics. But I mean, there's a lot going on during that time too, and I don't remember much of the books, like the specifics about the books I read, and they were library books, so I don't have them on my shelf to say like, I read this, I bought this. Anyway, so it's not a book that I really didn't read and told people that I read, but I let people believe that I had read it, and I actually have. Okay, question number 5 is the last book you wrote in the margins of. In a recent video, I said that I have started to annotate my books again, which is not something I had done for a long time, but I started the practice again because I was a book judge, a book contest judge. I mean, I was judging books, but specifically for a contest, and it helped me organize my thoughts. So I've started to annotate some books again this year and really enjoy it, although I tend to highlight more than I annotate. I still have a hard time putting my words into a book that someone else has written, but I am reading a book right now that I have been annotating. This is To the Bright Edge of the World by A.O. and Ivy. I cannot wait to tell you guys about this book. I've been going through it kind of slowly, not because it's a slow read, but because it's broken into very small segments, so it's easy to put down, which I appreciate. We always need books like that. So I have been highlighting and annotating some sections that I just feel were really beautifully written, and also that I might want to highlight in my review video. I do plan on doing an individual review of this book. There's a lot of beautiful things that I don't want to forget about this book that I may even want to put in my commonplace book. And if you don't know what a commonplace book is, watch my video about how I keep track of what I read, all about reading journals. The next question, question number 6, is what is the last book that you had signed? Well, this book is signed, but it wasn't the last book I had signed. This one was signed in person, which was really fun. But I did have a book signed, a couple books signed for Christmas, and you can watch my video about the books I purchased for myself for Christmas, and this one is technically the latter of the 2 that I got signed. I think I only got 2 signed for Christmas, and that is Dream Thief by Stephen Lawhead. This is a sci-fi that was reprinted through a Kickstarter campaign by one of my favorite authors. And because I supported him on Kickstarter, dun, 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 I got this beautiful book and a signed book plate and a letter to go with it, which was lovely. So that is my most recent signed book. Question number 7 is what is the last book you lost? Well, this book has been lost many times. This is The Days of Future Found by M.K. Wark. It is a self-published novel, and it is fascinating. I'm really enjoying it, and I am only a little more than halfway through because I lose this book so easily. I don't know if it's because it's dark. I don't know. Maybe because it's paperback and it's flexible. I have lost this book 3 times for months. I'm like, how? And it has found in the title. I don't understand. But we went on a camping trip and I read it on the camping trip, and that evoked wonderful memories. I love reading books on trips because then you associate the literature with the trip. And I packed it in my bag, and when we got home, I could not find it. And I don't even remember where it ended up, in someone else's bag or something. Couldn't find it forever. And then when I found it, was excited. I mean, it was months. So I found it, I read another 100 pages, and I was excited about it, and I lost it again and didn't find it until recently. I'm gonna lose it. I'm gonna put this down, and it's gonna disappear. So I found it last time. The last time I found it, it was behind the couch, but so close to the wall that you couldn't even see it looking behind the couch. Anyway, I will finish this book. It's not a DNF book, but I think I may have even marked it as read because I couldn't even remember where I was, and I was like, well, I'm never finding it again. But I didn't finish it, but I will. And I have a special shelf for my currently reading books that I have been reading for years, and it's on it now, or it was until I pulled it out for this video. Question number 8 is the last book you had to replace. Well, unfortunately, that was very recently. I have a puppy. You may have heard him barking a couple of times or ringing the bells to go to the bathroom. He just barked on cue. Even though I'm in a separate room and everyone else is being quiet, you can't really control the dog. I have an 8-month-old golden doodle. And he's almost over it, but for a while there, anytime there was a book, especially a hardcover book, we had to just keep it out of his reach, which is really difficult in our house because he would demolish it. So he got a hold of my copy of The Fellowship of the Ring that I just purchased for Christmas, and he just totally gnawed the binding, and while it's still readable, and I am reading this copy because if he gets a hold of it again, I want him to get this copy and not my new one, I did buy a replacement because I really want it to all, look nice and uniform in this little book set, and I do plan on, I'm rereading Fellowship right now with my oldest son. He's actually way ahead of me. He finished it. I need to catch up. Hopefully tomorrow I will be doing that. And then we'll go on and read the other two of the trilogy together and talk about them here on the channel together. And yeah, it's possible that I'll end up getting, not the prettiest copies when all is said and done, but I don't want a just mangled copy. So I spent more than I wanted to spend, and I got the individual to put into this book set. Question number 9 is the last book that you had an argument over. It was hard to think of any books that I've argued vehemently over, unless it was online. But I did get into a legitimate argument with my son, one of them, I have 3 sons, over Julius Caesar. And not because of why you would think. We are reading through this as a family right now, reading the parts. We are in Act 3, Scene 1, so about halfway through. And my 8-year-old loves Shakespeare. But here's the problem. He loves Shakespeare with his whole being, and when he starts reading Shakespeare, he morphs into this other person, and he has this accent that no one can understand. So the last one that we did together was, did we do Hamlet last? And I kind of let it slide because he's 8, it's fine. His reading is great. He pronounces the words correctly. He understands the humor. He chuckles at the things all the time. And I'm very pleased that we're doing Shakespeare. However, he wants the monologues that go on, and he wants the biggest roles in every scene. And then he just starts talking in this weird accent that's kind of like Southern United States mixed with Australia, mixed with England. And he really gets into it, and we're just like, and my other kids are like, what is going on? I don't even know what's happening. So I made him quit, and that caused an argument. So the last book that we got into an argument over was William Shakespeare's Julius Caesar. I didn't make him quit altogether. I just made him quit using the accent, and it's hard for him. He keeps slipping back into it. He just loves it. Okay, and the final question is the last book that you couldn't get a hold of. So I'm going to put a picture of this up next to me. I attended this online writers conference this weekend, which was just wonderful. And there was a class during the conference about writing dialogue. It was a wonderful class. The man who taught the class was hilarious. He needs to be an audiobook narrator, and I told him that. He just has the best voices, and he really helped us understand the function of different aspects of writing dialogue. And I really thoroughly enjoyed the class, and so I wanted to buy one of his books just to see how he writes naturally in his stories. And the one that appealed to me the most is called The Light of Tara, a novel of St. Patrick. The author's name is John Desarles, I think is how he pronounced it. And it is a historical fiction about St. Patrick, and of course March is coming up, and I love St. Patrick, and it seemed like a perfect fit. But I have that rule that I made for myself that I'm only going to buy ebooks, and it's only available in paperback. So I did have the opportunity to ask him if that is his plan for it to only be available in paperback, because it just came out last year, and he said no, not at all, but there was a problem with formatting, and his designer is working on it. So, as of right now, I have not been able to get a hold of The Light of Tara to read but maybe before St. Patrick's Day it'll be done. I don't know. Crossing my fingers. I put it on my Amazon wish list so that hopefully I'll remember to go back and look, but that is the one that I couldn't get a hold of the format that I wanted, at least. Well, I hope you enjoyed listening to my answers to those fun questions. Thanks again, Rosie, for tagging me. I had not heard of this tag before, so I wouldn't have known about it otherwise. I really appreciate that. And so I'm going to tag a couple of other booktubers, also because I would love for you to hear what they have to say, and it's fun to meet new booktubers. So the first one I'm going to tag in the description below is Elizabeth from A Suitcase Full of Books. She's a dear friend of mine. You will see her on this channel in person sometime, Lord willing. And the other is Vin from Revenant Reads. I really enjoyed listening to his ideas and thoughts on especially history books. So check him out. And Elizabeth and Vin, if you guys are interested in doing this tag, please do tag back to me so we can all be linked up, and tag some other people if you want to. No pressure though. And also, obviously I'm not tagging everyone, and if you see this and you think it seems like a fun tag, then please go ahead and do it. I'm going to be linking the original tag video in the description, and it's always nice to attribute the person who thought up the questions. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe so we can stay in touch. Give me some comments and tell me if you've read any of these books, or even what your answers would be. If you don't have a booktube channel, just copy the questions and answer them in the comments. That would be really fun. And leave me a comment otherwise about what you're reading right now. And I always end my videos by saying, after you've left that comment with what you're reading, tell me what's in your cup.